Huh? Hey, I'm tryna win. I'm tryna win in the 716 and I'm making it big. I wanna live. I think I'm ready to.
Yo, what's good, man? This is the Easy Pin Child Podcast with your one and only host, Glory Boy, here with our next special guest in the building. I just want to say, man, this special guest was referred to me by one of my good friends, who is one of his good friends, which is crazy. And and I'm really happy that we got to, make this happen in a short amount of time. Because I know I hit you up and we just kind of came up with this schedule. And now here we are, trying to, sit down and have a conversation about a lot of different things. Because you have an amazing story to tell in terms of like combat and all of that. So we're just going to get straight into that. But yeah, before we even start this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, man, and don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. And yeah, bro, tell the people who you are, what you do, and then we can start.
So my name is Troy Ferris. I am a Jujitsu athlete. I have competed in grappling pretty much my entire life. I've been around grappling and fighting ever since I was a baby. I've actually even watched my father All-American when he was in college.
Wow.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy because I was a baby when he was still competing. Yeah. Another thing about that is it's kind of grown into something that I like to offer to other people. And it's not even about me anymore. It's about what I can offer to others and what I can teach to all of my teammates and to teach some of the kids that I coach as well.
Speaking of, like, you mentioned you used to watch your father when he was competing at a young age. So, like, did you always wanted to become just like your father in the meantime?
I mean, it was kind of just there. It was just, like, part of who I was. It kind of was, like, implanted onto me, if that makes sense. It was just bestowed for me to follow his path, I guess. It's kind of the way I thought about it growing up. But then when I became an adult, I kind of, like, pushed away. And then I kind of circled back into realizing, like, who I was just naturally born to be, if that makes sense.
Why did you push away, though?
Because sometimes in life we go through hard times, and those hard times teach us things. That's just part of it. It's a thing about life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, I could speak for myself. It's I've played soccer my whole life. But then when I got injured, I kind of pushed back. And started focusing on a lot of different things that kind of like caught my attention and I was so much interested in, which is one of this is just photography, podcasting, and all the other things. But speaking of like jiu-jitsu, was jiu-jitsu like one of the things that you started? Because I know a lot of times when people get into like the martial arts, they either start with boxing, it could be taekwondo. So was jiu-jitsu like your number one and you just stuck with it for the whole time?
So I grew up wrestling.
Okay.
So that's a totally different. Well, it's a style of fighting. It's just as much of a style of fighting as any style of striking. But the thing about wrestling is that it's very similar to jiu-jitsu. So it translates very well. It's kind of like if I was a kickboxer and I wanted to go be a Muay Thai fighter. It'd be a very similar style of fighting that I can translate my style into.
Right.
So growing up wrestling, I was like a Division I recruit coming out of high school. I had just always been going to tournaments all throughout when I was a child, all the way through that point. I just got to a point where I was just kind of burned out. And I think a lot of people go through that, where they're just like, I'm putting so much effort toward this one thing, and is it really who I am?
Right.
And then when you come out of that and you realize, you take a step back and you stop actually, like what your path is supposed to be for you, and you actually veer off it, maybe on purpose, just to see what else could be out there. You know what I mean? And what happened with me was I was working in manufacturing, and I was just working a factory job. I had a good time. And then I started doing jujitsu because I was like, oh, I want to get back on the mats. I'll just do it once, twice a week.
Right.
Nope.
It's cut off to you.
It just literally, as soon as I got back into that team environment, it just kickstarted a flame in me where I was like, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I've been coaching kids since I was 16 years old. And then I'm still coaching some kids now doing jiu-jitsu. It's one of my favorite things to do, actually, just to see someone else learn something that I teach them, because
Right.
it validates even more for me. Even just as like my own athlete, like, yes, this worked for me, but it also works for this kid who's trying to like figure out the entire game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely. But also, like, in terms of like fighting, man, like one thing. So my father used to do boxing. But me, my brothers, we never got into like anything in terms of like boxing. We tried taekwondo, we tried karate, but we kind of like was like, man, why am I letting just, what do I like about getting hit every time? But like, when it comes to you, like, let me say, just wrestling and all of that, you wrestling with someone. What do you like about that? Like,
Well, at first, when I was all throughout growing up, I was idolizing the trophy of winning, if that makes sense. Like the feeling of actually beating someone in front of, while I was in high school, there was a point I would compete in front of 20,000 people. You know what I mean?
wow.
Well, that's the size of, same size of arena as Key Bank over in Albany, right? So those stands were filled, and it's like, those are scary kind of moments, but they're good to face. So like, I like the challenge of that.
Right.
And knowing that I can only blame myself, so it teaches complete and utter self accountability. So like, if I win, it's on me, but then if I lose, that's also on me. I can't go blame anybody else. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's compare just jiu-jitsu to life. So what are some things that it teaches you about real life just outside of jiu-jitsu when you're doing it?
So the reason why I think jiu-jitsu is actually so good and very important for people to translate into life. It's a great tool to teach you how to improve every aspect of your life.
Right.
Because you're putting yourself through, and this happens in boxing as well. You're putting yourself through extreme chaotic scenario that's in a controlled environment, and then you teach yourself that you're able to get out of that scenario safely. So you're entering these scary scenarios on a regular basis. So like, when hard things come to you, like when life hits you in the face, you're more prepared to be able to make the next best available chess move on the board, rather than be emotional and all and distraught and not do anything. You're actually more witty about your thoughts. You're more to get held together and poised. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely, bro. So like, how you mentioned that when you fight around 20,000 people, you think about that trophy. Like you think about just winning that trophy, knowing that you've won around that many people. So let me say you get to lose a game. Like, how do you overcome that? How do you overcome a loss?
So that's actually a good point that you bring up, because when I was a child, that's the way I thought about that. And one thing that jiu-jitsu actually taught me, and I learned it in jiu-jitsu after I was done competing in wrestling, and it's that you got to be grateful to be a part of someone else's day, just as much as you got to be grateful for when the wins come your way as well, if that makes sense. Just because sometimes people idolize I have to be the person that gets the gold medal. I have to be the best ever. It's not about being the best ever. It's about the pursuit of being the best ever. And always just trying to do give your absolute best to see who truly is that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's crazy though. You know, I like how you put it because it's a lot of cocky fighters nowadays. You know, they just want to be on top of the world.
It sells.
But there's always the one person that humbles them. You know, the one person that makes them understand it's not always gonna be you. You know, there's always gonna be people that also will be on top, like you just said, and also like, so when when you first lost your game, if you did ever lose a game as a young kid,
A ton.
what was your reaction to it and to your opponent that you was fighting? Like, did you spaz on them, like went crazy and be like, oh, I don't want to shake their hand or anything like that?
I mean, because I've lost a handful of times actually. One of the things that I try to do is just be grateful for the moment and the opportunity to fight them. You know, to showcase who I am. That's one thing that you know, you gotta kind of focus on and be humble and treat it with humility, because you're not always the person that wins. No one ever is always the person that wins in fights. I mean, there's only a handful of people. Like if you look in the UFC, like there's only a handful of people that have ever been undefeated. You know what I mean? We all take losses and we all lose. You know,
Right. That's true.
it's not about chasing the wins and losses. It's about the pursuit of being a better version of yourself. You know.
That's true. You always have to strive for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being the best version of yourself. And also, I want to ask you this, bro, because I know, what are the levels in jiu-jitsu? Because I know when it comes to karate, there's different belts that
Yep.
you know carries different weight or different skill level. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, what are the levels and what's the highest level that you can accomplish in jiu-jitsu?
So there's not necessarily one governing body that controls the sport, if that makes sense. Usually, there's a couple. There's like IBJJF and ADCC. UFC just created a grappling league, which is huge for the kind of sport that I do because I fight on K4, which is the local promotion over in Buffalo. But as far as like the levels of how you attain growth in jiu-jitsu, it's white belt, blue belt, purple, brown, and then black belt. Right now I'm a blue belt.
Okay.
But I also have an entire history of grappling that I have mastered previously, so it translates very well. So I'm a very skilled.
So what's
belt, if that makes sense.
what's the blue belt? Like what is that like for you?
So it really just means time doing the actual sport of jiu-jitsu, because there's nuances in jiu-jitsu that are different than wrestling, if that makes sense. So you have to actually learn the sport and grow through the sport as well. I can't just be like, oh, I tapped a black belt, that means I'm a black belt. That's not the same thing, if that makes sense.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So talk to me about just your game, one of your games in high school.
Oh, one of my high school?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like, what is one of your memorable games in high school that still stick with you throughout your career right now, that you always look back and say, man, that really changed my life?
I mean, there are so many higher level competitions than the ones I've been involved in, I guess, for wrestling as well. So I don't want to take away from all of those people as well. But, I mean, sharing my experience as to, like, what it feels like to compete in front of all those people, you know. There was one moment, actually, at that tournament where I was going up against the 2-seed first round, so the guy that's supposed to take second in the tournament in my weight class. And all week I'd been preparing to try to beat this guy because I felt like my skills were able to put together a good match and win. Right. And what's funny is when we actually went out on the mat and started wrestling, he was destroying me the whole time. I could not do a thing the whole match. But then right at the end, his coach tells him to let me go and then try to take me down again. And as he's trying to take me down, I ended up turning him on his back and pinning him on the buzzer in the last period. So it was like,
so right there you won.
it was right at the last like split moment.
Wow.
That I won. And then the whole entire arena of 20,000 people just looked, or 20,000 people or so, it could have been 18. Were all just erupted. It was so funny.
Man, last minute. You know how that hurts, man. That
Well,
hurts. If it was me, I'd be like, man, like, how am I beating this guy from the jump, and then last minute he takes me down and it's over. You know, because thinking about it, like when it comes to time, how are you guys timed?
Well, so the wrestling matches in high school are 3 2-minute periods. So
Okay.
they do like 2 minutes, and then there's a small little break where there's a decision, and then another 2 minutes, and then a small break, and then another 2 minutes, and then there's overtime rules and stuff like that.
But if they put your back all the way down, then you lose.
Yep. If you get both shoulders pinned to the mat, then you're pinned.
How many seconds does that have to take, or is just right like as soon as your shoulders touch the mat, it's over?
It's got like the dust has to settle. It's kind of up to the ref's discretion, but usually it's about 3 to 5 seconds. If they're completely flat on the mat.
Wow.
I mean, but also it could be longer than that because you have someone trying to not get pinned too.
Oh yeah, they're gonna keep moving.
Right. So they're fighting the whole. They're not just gonna lay there.
Oh yeah, they have to fight for their life.
Well, and that's what it teaches you. It teaches you how to like, oh my goodness, I'm getting destroyed in this situation. Like, what do I do?
Right.
You know,
It's under pressure.
Yeah, right. And it puts you under pressure on purpose. You know, it's a great tool, and a great skill to learn to translate to. Oh my goodness, my finances aren't looking so good. What do I do about it?
You grind.
Well, right, but how does that grind take place?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are the steps that I need to take? You start to think about those kind of things rather than, oh my goodness, this is a problem that I have to address. You know what I mean?
That's true. I mean, yeah, man. Like, I see. I feel like that's why a lot of people tend to just face, switch their careers or whatever and go into combat, because there's some people that really want that discipline too. And I feel like it does develop that discipline that, like you said, just when you under pressure, not knowing exactly how you're going to handle your situation, now you start thinking about ways to help you, manage whatever that you're dealing with. So let's talk about just like when it comes to jiu-jitsu as you're fighting on every single day, like did you ever thought about doing any other sports in terms of like boxing or
like mixed martial arts?
Yeah.
I've thought about it. I've trained a little bit of Muay Thai.
Okay.
So I do know how to strike. It's not that I don't know how to strike. I would need to be consistently training it in order to feel confident and to be in a fight scenario where I'm actually like in an MMA fight. But it's something that I've toyed with, and I really don't think it's something that I want to pursue, especially now that the UFC has a grappling league that they just created.
Well, what is the grappling? Just
So
wrestling?
yeah. So this is good because it's actually describing the sport that I do.
Okay.
It's grappling is jujitsu, but it's a different kind of rule set than normal jiu-jitsu, where you're like in a gi and you have a belt, right? Which I do compete in those tournaments as well.
Right.
But as far as like what the UFC is doing, they're doing like this no gi, like just like a rash guard and shorts style event where it's submission only, and they actually like are going to be like judging the rounds if that makes sense. If they're if it goes that long. So it's a different kind of event than just the belt with the gi, where it's like this point fighting system, kind of like wrestling tournaments, like when you're in high school and you have like, or college, and you have like 14-6. This guy wins, or this guy gets a pin, if that makes sense. So, as far as with what the UFC is doing, it's really great for what I do, because I'm in the cage fighting, grappling events in Buffalo. They're actually Riverworks a lot, and they do travel around the Northeast. They're in this weekend. They were actually in Barry, I think, like Wilkes area over in PA.
Wow. How many people show up to those tournaments?
Usually these ones are about like 2,000.
2,000. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
2,000. That's a lot of people.
It's like 1,500 to 2,000 people. It kind of depends on how the turnout is.
Wow. I mean, that's good. I mean, it still puts you under pressure though, because you're competing against someone around so many people, and like you said from the start, is your mindset is set on that trophy. Like you think about winning that trophy, and just imagining there's thousands of people around you. Like, how are you gonna solve that issue?
Well, I mean, I kind of stopped worrying about the trophy.
So what do you worry about now?
I worry about what's in front of me.
Okay.
So like when I compete, it's more of a test for myself, and like my own human. It's not just about like I gotta win.
Right.
I mean, believe me, I train and do everything I can to win, because obviously I don't like to be choked out or submitted. I want to actually be the person doing that. But I look at it more as whenever I enter I cross the line on the mat, or I enter the cage, it's like I think about chaos. It's just going to be chaos in there, you know?
Yeah. So when you think about chaos, let's talk about chaos itself. How do you manage to face that chaos in almost every possible way? I mean, because you think the most important thing that you focus on now is what's in front of you. But like, how do you manage to face that chaos? Because that's a life lesson for some people.
Well, because when I get into a fight scenario, I don't know what he's going to do. You know, like if you've ever played the game of chess, you can't know what your opponent is going, like how your opponent is going to move their pieces. I mean, you can kind of set them up when you get really good at chess, but at the same time, you can't make the decisions for them. You have to look at what they're giving you and make decisions based off of what's available. Right. So I'm just focused on what's right in front of me in the moment and trying to solve the problem at hand, rather than trying to focus on, I better win because so-and-so is watching me, you know, or I better win because if I don't, then this is going to be bad for my career.
Then you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for other people.
Well, right. I mean, I'm doing it for me.
So when you think like that, I gotta win because someone is watching.
Right.
You know, at that moment, you're not doing it for yourself. You're not. It doesn't show. Maybe you're not showing that true passion that you have within you.
Well, if you look at what just like there's this past weekend, the Bills and Rams game. Right. Josh Allen had a historic game. You know. And everyone knows that. No one's mad at him, if that makes sense, about that loss. But it's like you see, you know, the emotionality come out of people who are like, oh, the Bills better win.
Right.
But Josh Allen isn't playing for you. Josh Allen is playing for himself.
You want to be the MVP?
He wants to do. I mean, he's playing for himself, but he's also playing for his teammates around him and the people that love him and support him. That's who he's playing for. he wants to like do well in that regard. Like that's just the kind of the mindset.
Right.
The mindset of an athlete in general.
Yeah. Being an athlete, especially at the highest level, can also be very, very difficult in terms of like, let me say, there's people that's gonna be happy that you lose. There's people that's gonna be mad that you lost. So like in terms of like, because I know when it comes to fighting, in terms of like just let me say the day you win, like who are the people that are very excited for you for your win?
Well, actually, she is competing this weekend. One of my teammates, Genevieve Pates, is a very, very close person to me as far as a support system and how I am as a competitor. She's been growing as a competitor as well. She's actually at Nogi Worlds right now.
Wow.
She's
Nice.
She's down in Las Vegas competing. I'm hoping she does very well. I believe she competes tomorrow. She might compete tonight though. I don't know.
Are you gonna be watching it?
She does not like when I watch, so I just respect that.
Okay. Well, why she doesn't like that?
So she gets nervous.
Okay. Gotcha.
She,
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, there's always like they probably should just want you to see the results.
Yep.
Rather than, see all of what's going on because you guys are so close. But yeah, so and also I wanted to ask you this. So when it comes to training, because we had this conversation actually before we even started this. So like how many times do you train throughout the week, and how does your training go on a daily basis?
So it kind of cycles. There are times like if I have a fight coming up, I will be training 5-6 days a week. As far as jujitsu itself goes, I also lift like between 2 and 4 days a week. On top of that, just because I don't want to hurt my body too much and overload it. And I'd rather do more jujitsu than I would lifting. So I do like 2 to 4 days a week, depending on the cycle.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do a lot of cold plunge. I have one at my house. I do a lot of hot therapy, and I also work at a cryotherapy place as well.
So I feel like you focus more on recovery than just being there, just fighting and all of that.
Yeah, so recovery is a very important aspect of being an athlete. It's probably,
Oh yeah.
especially as like being an adult, and you're training, even if you're just like, it doesn't even matter what kind of athlete you are. You could be the runner that runs, 5 miles a day, five days a week. You got to take care of yourself if you want to have longevity.
That's true.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm training with the best that Buffalo has to offer over at Buffalo United Martial Arts. I have some great teammates and some great professors over there that teach me a ton, and we go through very intense training. But also at the same time, I'm studying with like videos on my own, and I'm also like playing with different techniques as far as like different pathways to pass the guard and try to get to a submission, and just things like that.
Wow. So like, so tell me, like, what is one of the hardest part? I mean, one of the hardest days of your training days. One day that, because I know there's always that one day where they just push you to your limit. Like what's that day, and how does that day go for you?
Well, when it comes to like the intensity of like being pushed to my limits, it's just going with all the black belts at my gym. I mean, I have some tremendous professors and teammates. Minhaj Siddiqui, Dan Donahue are a couple names. Dave Putman's another name. These are just local guys that are very, very high level guys in our area that have a lot to offer as far as knowledge goes, and they're giving me very intense training, and that being said, I get to benefit from that.
Yeah.
I'm giving them intense training as well with my wrestling. Some of them don't have that kind of background, if that makes
Some
sense.
of them just went straight into jiu-jitsu,
Right.
or yeah, I mean that's good. So basically, you're just learning from each other.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
know,
I have my thing to offer, and they have theirs, and believe me, I'm learning so much from them. It's like it's just like a fountain of knowledge every day.
Yeah. Which one do you think is the hardest combat sport?
The hardest combat sport as a competitor, or the hardest to physically do?
To physically do, yeah, as a competitor, just yeah.
To physically do, like damage to your body, Muay Thai is ridiculous.
So Muay Thai is like more, is more dangerous than UFC.
I mean, Muay Thai is involved in UFC, but strictly Muay Thai, it's such a brutal sport because it's only strikes with kicks, elbows, knees, and punches. So like, there's so many different ways that you're getting hit, which are allowed in like MMA, but at the same time, in MMA, I can take you down and I can choke you. So it's it's a little different.
Right.
With Muay Thai, it's just the strikes. So that one is like physically very brutal on your body. As far as like as a competitor goes, I think wrestling is the hardest, because there's so many people that do it, all throughout like youth, and then all throughout high school, and then college, and now you're seeing it more professionally and like on the world stage as well. Wrestling is probably the most grind sport, if that makes sense.
You know, about boxing. What would you say about boxing? Because boxing athletes also go through like some tough trainings. Tough trainings and all of that.
Well, yeah, boxing is ridiculously hard. Boxing is a super simple. Well, it's not a simplified chess match. That's not the right way to put it. It's so simple that it makes it complex because there's so many little cues that get you in and out of position. So you could move just the right way, and then all of a sudden you're out of position. So it's very, very difficult, and very, very skillful as a martial art as well.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of sports now. Man, sometimes I be asking myself, like, how can one just go in the ring in terms of like UFC and just get struck in the head and all of that? Like,
Well,
it's insane, bro. It's insane.
Well, look at the guys like Sean Strickland.
Mm.
If you know who I'm talking about.
Not really, but I kind of recognize the name.
He's a little off-color character, He's not liked by everybody, and he doesn't want to be liked by everybody. But he fights because fighting saved him, He was a kid that was born in a very, very dark situation, and fighting brought him out of that, and he was scarred from that situation. And you can tell that he's scarred from that situation as he is as an adult, but like you can see the progression of who he is as a human being from what fighting has done for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it changed his life.
It changed his, and he's not the only one that's like that. It changed my life. It changed in a different way. It changed, it changes everyone's lives, in my opinion, in each and on an individual basis.
And how do you guys act outside of like the ring? Because I know, let me say, someone was to provoke you guys. Like, how do you guys respond when someone provokes you the first time?
when someone provokes me, it takes a lot for me to actually get into a physical confrontation, and that kind of in like a street fight scenario. That's kind of like not something I really ever want to be a part of. I mean, I don't like, I feel confident in myself, so I approach those situations very calmly. So like if someone's aggressive with me, I don't get emotional and start getting aggressive with them.
Right.
I just notice that they're getting aggressive with me, and it kind of turns on the little chip in my brain that's going like, okay, we might have to fight somebody right now. You know, like the alarm bells are going off, but we just have to, like, you know, be ready. And
so it just gives you like that I don't know, the fighter's instinct. Like you're aware. Just make sure you're alert. Because, you know, when it comes to street fights, they can just hit you out of nowhere. You know, so you just have to be aware, but also have that self-control.
Yeah, I mean, it's the self-control is the biggest aspect. I'm not going to ever fight someone unless they're actually physically trying to hurt me.
Do you lose, like, your credibility as a fighter when you fight outside of the ring?
I mean, that depends on the situation in my eyes. If someone is doing the right thing and using their martial arts to, like, in a good way, I think that is the right thing to do. Like if, let's say, there was a criminal that was trying to hurt somebody and I happened to be around, you know, not that I'd want to actually really maim that person, but I can restrain them to the point where they're not going to be a threat any longer until the police get there. You know what I mean? So like, you can, like, I just have, like, this comfortability. I have this comfortability in violence because when I train on a daily basis, I'm looking at one of my best friends and we're about to rip each other's arms off and then high five each other when we're done.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's the crazy part.
But yeah, exactly. It's
Let me say you're training with them though, and they hit you the wrong way, and it hurts.
It's happened.
How do you kind of like go about that? Like, do you just be mad at them the whole time, or you understand it's just part of the fight?
Sometimes you give it, sometimes you take it. It's just how it is. Regardless of what level you're at, everyone's been there where they're not the best guy. You know, like, even, like, if you look at the boxing world, like, who's the best of all time? Floyd Mayweather. You know, Floyd Mayweather's the best. But there was a time where Floyd was growing into boxing to see his full form as Floyd, right. You know? So, like, going through that, you know, that's a very, it's a very important process. You know, you can't be the best without going through that, you know?
Man, it's amazing how much fighting can teach you about life, you know, and also you get to meet some of the closest people in your life. I bet some of the people that you train with every day, they're like your everyday brothers. You know, you go out there, you know, like, this person can't really fight for me outside of anything, you know. So, like, how does that correlate with the relationship building as well?
My closest friendships are my jiu-jitsu friends. I don't have any closer friendships than the people that are in that environment. It's kind of like my version of, like, at the same time that it's like a profession of mine.
Right.
It's kind of like my version of going to the bar. You know, like, I go out, like, you know, I might go out to the bar and, like, see a couple of my friends and be like, oh my God, we're having a good time, right? My version of the good time is fighting my friend, you know, and for some reason, it brings people like so close together. You know, because you share, like, your human experience at its, like, full state, like your full human expression, because you're trying to fight somebody and they're trying to fight you, you know, and you learn about each other that way, you know.
Yeah.
Like you don't think that you do, but you do, because you're not paying attention to learning one specific person. You're trying to get better yourself, but at the same time you learn and get develop close relationships with these people. And, you know, over at my gym, it's the most inclusive environment in the best way possible, because you can have someone who thinks super orthodox Christian Bible thumper person over here, and then super strict Muslim. And then you can also have someone who is LGBTQ, and put them all in the same room, and everyone's going to get along, because that's what jiu-jitsu is. It's it allows everyone to be 100% unapologetically themselves, which I love. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's how it should be. You accept everyone for who they are. Plus, you know, they're there for one reason. It's just to continue to learn more about themselves, to continue to fight and be better at it, and more. But yeah, what advice would you give to the young fighters that's coming up that wants to, you know, pursue their career? Either it could be boxing, it could be taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, and so on.
To stop caring about how many wins you get versus how many losses you get, and care about trying to pursue as many wins as you can, and learning from the losses rather than getting upset about them. Another thing that I would, because this is kind of piggybacks off of that, another thing that I would say to children specifically is to just fall in love with the process of getting better, rather than falling in love with the trophy and how you do. Because if you're just trying to get 1% better every day, the trophies are going to come. That's how you bring them to you, rather than, oh, I have to perform this well at this thing, at this. You're going to get too much in your head. It's going to cause too much anxiety, and then you're not going to perform as well as you could.
And it's going to discourage you from continuing forward.
Right, exactly. And it's going to stop you and burn you out, rather than thinking about this as like a lifelong project of, this is how I'm going to be a better combat athlete today. You know, like, what can I do to be a better combat athlete today? And then when you take that mindset and you start to apply that to life, you can say, oh, well, I'm in my job. How can I be a better engineer today? How can I be a better teacher today? You know, like, you learn how to pick apart those the learning aspects of those different types of careers, if that makes sense, throughout your life.
I like that, bro, because I feel like in life you always have to enjoy the process. I saw this one picture actually where the picture, it says something like this. Let me see if I can find it, because I took a screenshot of it. What you just said kind of relates to that picture. Let's see. Yeah, so the picture says, stop living for the future, enjoy the process. So like you said, stop aiming for just that trophy, and enjoy the process of being better every day, 1% each day. So, man, makes a lot of sense. I mean, fighting, man, if you're doing fighting, like I said, man, just enjoy it, because if you're not enjoying it, then why are you doing it, you know?
Well, it's hard to enjoy.
I mean, then why you staying there for too long? It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's easy for me to enjoy. Like, I know that, like, I know it's the thing that I was put on the planet to do, was fight and then teach people how to fight. That's really, really the biggest thing is teaching. But it is a very, very difficult sport to fall in love with, because you are going into chaos every single day.
Every day.
And that's the best part about it.
Yeah.
And you start to learn that where like you go through this this stage when you're a white belt and you're going up against other white belts and you're winning, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing really, really well. And then you go up against a couple higher belts and they're letting you do techniques on them, and they're allowing you to actually get wins, and then you're thinking, oh, I'm doing really, really well, and then you get your blue belt. And then they're like, oh yeah, actually we're gonna go hard on you now.
Yeah.
You know, like that's kind of how it goes. Now, I got treated like that when I was a white belt, but I could see some of my teammates getting treated like that because that's how it is. It's hard to fall in love with it when someone's beating you all the time. You know, like if I were to go up against like one of my black belt friends, Dan. Dan is one of the best black belts in the world.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, he is. And he is such a savant and so intelligent with jiu-jitsu where I could train with him and give him a good role, but at the same time, I know that he's probably going to win, you know? And that's even against me. And then, like, you could be the 40-year-old hobbyist, you know? If you're the 40-year-old hobbyist, then someone like that is going to destroy you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true, man. You get humbled real quick.
Right. So it's a hard, difficult sport to fall in love with because you're putting yourself through difficult situations where, I mean, it is the thing that makes it lovable is the putting yourself through difficult situations, but you have to like that. Yeah. You can't just be like, I am not happy when I'm laying down in bed all day, every day for a week. Like, that is a terrible feeling, you know, like I'm not productive. Like this is a thing that makes you get productive about yourself as a physical, you're training yourself to be a physical weapon, you know?
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, bro, thank you so much. You know, I feel like we had a great conversation, so we're just gonna end it here. Appreciate you, man. And also, you have Instagram for the people that would like to follow you and continue with your journey.
Yes. So my Instagram is Troy Ferris _BJJ_fitness. And then I did want to mention one of my sponsors, though, that have just sponsored me, is a company called Full Blast. They have some sponsored athletes in the bare knuckle fight championships, if you know what that is.
Just bare.
Yeah, this company he sponsors some fighters that are in the bare knuckle fighting as well. So like the fight community is not just boxing and MMA and that's it. There's so many different aspects and so
like
many
slapping,
different the power slap. It's huge. Power and that's why I'm excited about the UFC grappling, because with what power slap's doing from the UFC, it's like this new birthed event, you know. With UFC grappling, you're going to get similar viewership because of just what the product of what they have, you know. So it's going to grow my sport, and hopefully I can grow into it as well. Most
definitely. I mean, it's coming your way. I mean, if it's already started, that's it. It's going to take off. But yeah, man, thank you so much once again, bro. It was a pleasure having you. And guys, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. And make sure you go follow Brody on his Instagram. And yeah, we out of here, bro.
Thank you.
Bless up.